morning, everyone. Welcome to the program live from Lagos, the home of Channels Television. This is Business Morning with me, Bosin Omofai. Welcome our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. The biggest story on the street today is the release of May Consumer Price Index or inflation report by the National Bureau of Statistics. Let's delve into that right away. This is just coming in about 2 minutes ago. That Nigeria's Consumer Price Index was down to 16.25% year-on-year basis last month, compared to 17.4% in the month of May, or in the month of April, I beg your pardon. On a month-on-month basis, the headline index increased by 1.88%, according to the Bureau of Statistics. That's 0.28% higher than the rate of 0% recorded in April. Food inflation surged by 19.27% year-on-year, down 0.03 percent points from the rate posted in April. On a month-on-month basis, the food index increased by 2.54% last month. The all items less farm produce eased by 1.80% during the month. And on a month-on-month basis, the core sub-index increased by 1.17%. We're trying to unpack what the latest numbers are, but that's just the key highlights as published just a few minutes ago by the Statistics Office, Nigeria's inflation figure. On a month-on-month basis, inflation index, we're going to stick with that figure, higher by 1.88%. That's the figure. The food inflation increased by 19.7%. That's what the report is showing us as we speak, and all this will be available on the website of the National Bureau of Statistics. Before this number came out today, some of the forecasts that we have, and we'll just go through that. Some analysts and all the analysts at Financial Derivatives Company saw this inflation sharply down to 16.1% from 17.24% on quote-unquote waning base year effects. And the key question that report from FDC 2 days ago said was, question, how much of the inflation data explains consumer price realities? There seems to be an inconsistency between anecdotal and empirical evidence. We're trying to get folks to unpack what those heavy economic terminologies really mean. But what it means in simple terms is that the data, inflation data, doesn't seem to explain the consumer price realities on the street for everyday Nigerians. And that's the conversation today in the main throughout the programming. Meantime, FSDH Merchant Bank yesterday also released a report saying that they expect inflation to drop to 16.13% and went on to say that the expected decline in May inflation figure that's now on the street will be on the back of federal government decisions on petrol prices and electricity tariff that remain stuck by the government unwilling to move either of these key energy prices to the north or to the south. Remain downside risks to the path of inflation in 2017. Path of inflation, that's the PAST, PASH, path, PTH of inflation. So the downside risks to inflation will just be the petrol prices and electricity prices. Live here in the studios to put the quote-unquote enigma of inflation into perspectives. Enigma is the word used by financial derivatives economists describing inflation. Let's put some of this into perspectives with Chukuma Ayawu, who is the head of research at GTI Securities. Chukuma, good morning.
Great to be here.
It's good to have you here. Thank you very much for coming through to the studios this morning. These numbers is hitting the street. Give us your immediate reaction to some of the forecasts, where folks think we're going to come from and where we are at the moment.
Well, the fact that we are seeing a reduction in inflation is largely on the fact, riding on the back of the fact that we've gotten some stability on our FX policies. And I think because of the fact that we've had an inflation really triggered by costs, the fact that we saw exchange rate spiral to about 500 at some point meant that cost of imported goods went up, and that was largely, the major reason why we saw that inflation. So a stability around the FX market means that it's expected that this will happen. But like the folks at FDC said, I think there's still some disconnect between the realities in the market and what the figures we're seeing tells.
Yes, the figure is showing 16.25% decline. If you go on Twitter right now, you find the head of the statistics office, Dr. Yemikale, and he's tweeting these infographics and other information as we're getting them right now, just released 10 o'clock local time 5 minutes ago, and it's so 16.25% year on year. This is not totally out of tune for some forecasts saying we're going to see 16.13, 16.1, not significantly different, maybe about 0.1% difference. But of course, if you look at the food inflation here, this is very, very sticky. That's sharply up to 19.27%, significantly higher than the headline index.
And you know, that's the major part where the regular man on the street wants to focus on. So if inflation on food index is still up, it means that there is no real value added to his pocket. And even how that filters into the market, it means that we'll see lesser and lesser disposable income for people to be able to invest. And that's a problem. That's really the major worry why people are still complaining about the fact that we're seeing a reduction in inflation, and yet it doesn't really affect the kind of lifestyle that people are living.
What people want to see, and if you look at the folks from FSDH Merchant Bank, they're talking about the fact that petrol prices and electricity prices remain a very major concern here for what happens to inflation on a month-on-month basis.
If you break down the disposable income of the average Nigerian, I mean, a large chunk of it is spent on transportation, on power, and that's a major part. So we need to see real reduction in the prices of those things for it to have any major effect on the investing public and of course the disposable income of individuals on the street.
Where do you think the inflation conversation gets into when it comes to the equities market? Is it something folks every day talk about, or is it something that really doesn't bother them because, well, you pay the VAT, you pay other costs, so